Have you ever started consuming a piece of media and within the first few minutes it's already enthralled you in a way that's hard to even describe? It's the realization that you've stumbled across something unlike anything you've seen or heard before, and it hits you in a way that just fuels you to want to get out there and do something, to go out and create. In the age of streaming with so much great accessible content, it's easier for people to find media they love, whether it's TV, video games, or music. But discovering something that seems to push the bounds of creativity and getting instantly consumed by it is such an exciting experience. For me, this most recently occurred when I listened to Ice Nine Kill's latest album, The Silver Scream 2, Welcome To Horrorwood. Ice Nine Kills, commonly referred to as Inc., originally formed in the early 2000s by frontman Spencer Charnis under the name Ice Nine. They've gone through various musical and lineup iterations in their time, from humble high school beginnings producing ska covers, to leaning into more of a pop-punk and emo influence, to eventually landing on a signature metal sound that would encompass their early releases, including 2007's The Burning, 2010's Safe Is Just a Shadow, and 2014's The Predator Becomes the Prey. A shift in direction with a more defined vision was introduced with their fourth release in 2015, Every Trick in the Book, a loose concept album where every song was inspired by a different book. While this wasn't the album that propelled them into the mainstream, it did set the stage for what would become their breakthrough. Now, there are a lot of artists that achieve overnight or instant success in the viral age, but what's more unheard of is a band hitting their peak almost 20 years into their career, and that's exactly what happened for Ice Nine Kills when their popularity exploded after the release of their 2018 album, The Silver Scream. The Silver Scream elevated the concept of Every Trick in the Book, but pulled the focus onto horror films, with references including It, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Halloween, allowing the band to hone in on the cultural crossover of slasher and metal fans, and boy did it work. The Silver Scream debuted at number 29 on the US Billboard Top 200 and at 31 on the UK rock and metal album charts. Shortly after the album's release, the band achieved the milestone of having over 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. So that roughly brings us up to date and onto the core subject of this video. On October 15, 2021, Ice Nine Kills released a highly anticipated follow-up and their sixth studio album, The Silver Scream 2, Welcome to Horrorwood. In a 2021 interview with Alternative Press, Spencer discussed the intentions behind The Silver Scream 2, referencing the movies that inspired the songs, explaining that if there's a successful film in the genre, there's always a sequel. In Scream 2, Randy points out that the body count is always bigger. The production is upped on every level, there's always a bigger recording or filming budget. We went in with that light-hearted attitude that we were going to have fun and see how much crazier we could take this newfound style of taking horror movies and converting it into the Ice Nine Kills treatment. The full interview, which I'll make sure to link below, really captures the mindset the band had going into this record, as well as the adoring fan reaction that encouraged them to continue down the bloody horror movie inspired path. Horrorwood feels like everything great from the original Silver Scream has been doubled down on. More harrowing delights take center stage, with tracks inspired by Child's Play, American Psycho, and Candyman, to name a few. There's a lyric at the beginning of the Silver Scream 2 on title track Welcome to Horrorwood, which is not only the first full song on the album, but the only song that's not based on a specific film. In the opening verse, Spencer addresses the listener directly with the words, "Sit back for the sequel of your dreams, all psychos crave more shocking scenes." With Ink's dedicated fan base being lovingly deemed the Psychos, it's a fair interpretation to say that this is a direct nod to those fans. After the success of The Silver Scream, a record that for many was an introduction to the band, fans were eagerly awaiting the next chapter, craving more of the horror-inspired music that they've fallen in love with. This lyric is Spencer saying, "This is what you've been waiting for, it's here, it's yours." There's a real grand sense of ambition throughout Horrorwood, not only within the lyrics and instrumentals, but in the overarching narrative that's weaved into the record and presented through the band's music videos. The original Silver Scream had a similar video-based story centering around Spencer seeing a therapist. But as quoted in the Alt Press interview, the news story accepts the last album and last video series as a work of fiction. In Horrorwood's narrative, Spencer is under suspicion for the murder of his fiancée, and the only evidence the police have at their disposal are a series of VHS tapes containing the music videos for songs deemed so violent and disturbing that the American Recording Association forbid them from being released to the public. Welcome to Horrorwood are those songs. This setup and revelation at the very beginning of the album album is not only chilling and instantly snaps your attention, but it's a true display of Ice Nine Kills' creative vision. The Silver Scream 2 took the storytelling concept touched on in the first album and made it fully realised. At the end of each music video, the police team behind the investigation are seen discussing the contents of the VHS, the very music video you've just watched, inching closer and closer to implicating Spencer in the crime. The attention to detail to the overarching story is incredibly prominent in everything Inc. have produced so far in this album cycle. They even continue to lean into the narrative on album release day when Spencer hosted a YouTube Q&A entitled Spencer's One Phone Call, an obvious nod to the singular call a person is allowed after being detained by law enforcement. I especially love the cameos throughout the videos that showcase just how passionate Spencer is about the horror slasher genre. Horror legend Bill Moseley, best known for playing Chop Top in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, portrays the diligent officer at the head of the investigation. Actor Ricky Dean Logan, known for Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, is Spencer's lawyer. And perhaps the most significant cameo is in the video for Funeral Derangements, where Miko Hughes, who played Gage in Stephen King's Pet Sematary, plays a truck driver who hits Gage, effectively paying homage to the original film while killing his own character. The concept, vision, and world Ice Nine Kills have crafted with the Silver Scream 2 have utterly hooked me into becoming a massive fan of the band in just a couple of short weeks. Personally, I haven't experienced a band executing their vision with such clarity and dedication since I first heard The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. Overall, this album is a lot of things. It's heavy and theatrical, humorous and menacing, a catchy, cohesive, and fully realised vision. I've recently described it to a friend as the most batshit thing I've heard all year, and I mean that in the best possible way. I could sit here and try to describe each song one by one, but I know my words wouldn't do it justice, so all I can do is ask you to listen to this record. Listen to it in its entirety. It's a front-to-back experience that I wish I could hear again for the first time. So, if you haven't already, why not spare 47 minutes and go and visit Horrorwood?